Tonight. I'm reminded looking at you all that downtowns grow in fits and starts. Sometimes there's long periods when nothing's happening, then we have challenges like COVID and the rail bridge project. But we're coming out of all of that, I think, with enormous excitement and enthusiasm about people who want to invest in projects and invest in the future of downtown. So it's a real honor to have you here. Joe McVeigh asked me to introduce him tonight. That's a dangerous thing. I'm reminded looking at Joe that 20 years ago, when we were part of an energy to restore this place, he appeared in a musical here in Chicago wearing a dress. And the moment it was ripped off of him, it was one of the great moments in theatrical history, right here. And now he has risen to be the chair of the Ilsley 100 project team. It's a great pleasure to introduce him and the rest of them to you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doug. 25 years ago when I moved to Middlebury, this building was a dilapidated hulk. It was in disrepair, it needed tender loving care, and Doug and a team of supporters came to it with a vision, with imagination, with determination, and turned it into the wonderful theater that we have here today, and they have plans to make it even better. So we thank you, Doug, for the work that you have done here to make this theater and our community better, and we're grateful to you as well, and Lisa and everyone for hosting us here tonight. So thank you very much for that. As you will not be surprised to hear, our library is also in a state of disrepair, and it's going to take imagination, determination, and drive to fix those problems and move us into the future. And we're absolutely delighted to be here tonight so we can start thinking about the imagination part of that process. So we welcome those of you who are here with us in the Town Hall Theater tonight, as well as those of you who might be watching the Middlebury Community Television broadcast or live stream or viewing the recording after the fact. So in some ways this is a culmination, but in other ways it's a beginning. But we're here because of years and years and years of work. And so as we get underway this evening, I just want to take a minute to thank a number of people who've put in the time and energy and effort to get us here. And that starts with our amazing library staff, who just are incredible. Many of them are here tonight. We also have a stellar board of trustees who help steer the ship. There is an amazing volunteer group, the Friends of the Library, who help pay for all of our programs. You'll see them out at the book sale once a month, which is great. The previous library building committee worked for 3 years to help move us along and kind of lay the foundation for our work. The town administration and staff have been fabulous. We've had a small professional advisory group of architects who have helped us as well. And then we have this group we're calling the Ilsley 100 Project Team, a group of library trustees, select board members, and other members of the community who've been steering this, and of course, our select board as well. So thank you to everybody who's helped us get to this point. So here's our plan for tonight. Our library director, Dana Hart, and I are going to just talk a little bit about the background of the project, and then each of the 3 teams of designers will present their vision for a new library. And after you've had a chance to hear from each of those firms, we'll invite you to give us some feedback in the form of written comments so that we can document your opinions. And hopefully you got a comment card as you came in the door. If not, we'll get some to you. And then we'll move to what's really the second half of tonight's program, which is, if you wish, you can approach each of the design teams to look more closely at their plans and ideas and ask them questions. And members of the project team and the select board will also be able to listen to your feedback or your comments. I think you have opinions about this. It's my understanding that people have opinions. So we'd like to hear what you have to say. And we'll collect your comment cards as you leave, and then look forward to reading about what you have to say. So, what does a library do for the community? And why do we need to renovate and expand our library in the first place? So here to explain that, please welcome our library director, Dana Hart.
Thank you, and thank you for your interest in the project and for being here tonight. When I look out and see all of you, I imagine that most of you already use the library in some way or know someone that does. And one of my favorite things about public libraries is that you all probably use the library in a different way. As many of us as are here tonight, that's how many different resources and programs and activities we have at the library. It's a community center. It is a place to work and to learn and to play. When you visit the library on any given day, you're visiting a space where a kid might be learning how to read, hopefully learning to love reading if we're doing our job right. Seniors might be attending a free Tai Chi class. Teens are gathering after school to do homework. Someone is accessing free internet to apply for a job or work remotely or access social services. I really don't know of any place other than the library where you can go and be surrounded by this diversity of activity. Or this diversity of community. It's really the one place in Middlebury where everyone is welcome and everyone comes to mix and mingle. It's a special resource that we have in Middlebury. Not every community has this. And what makes it special is all of you coming in and availing yourself of our resources. We have about 300 visitors a day. You all check out over 10,000 books a month. This library is so important to the health and vigor of our community. And you are all what makes it so special, so thank you again. Unfortunately, we do have a threat to the library's continued role in our community, and that is our building. I know that there is a lot of love for our beautiful historic 1924 building, as there should be, and the library staff do an amazing job of working to minimize the impact that the facilities challenges have on the visitor experience. So if you are in and out of the building for short periods of time, even on a regular basis, it can be easy to miss some of our challenges, but believe me when I say, the library building is in a really serious state of disrepair. Okay, we have groundwater coming up through the basement on a regular basis, not just when we have these historic floods. In fact, right now our community meeting room is closed to the public because of the recent flooding we've had. So when you see the dehumidifiers out in the children's room or the community meeting room, that's because we can't control the humidity and we are always battling mildew and mold. We have water coming down from the ceiling, leaks in our roof. When you see that the lights are off in the nonfiction stacks upstairs, that's because our electricians have told us it isn't safe to leave the lights on because we have water coming down through the fixtures so regularly. We have many days each winter where our heat does not turn on in the morning. We have to place expensive service calls. And every time we hope we get it going again, and every time we have so far. We have a similar problem with our AC units in the summer, except that 2 of our 7 AC units have already reached that point where they cannot be serviced and they're beyond repair. And this heating and cooling system are not connected. We have no HVAC system, which as you all know means there's no air exchange. So unless we open a window, there's no fresh air. So it's not a very healthy environment in that way. We have no secondary egress from our 3rd floor. And I don't want to alarm anyone, but I think it's already public knowledge that yes, our elevator periodically gets stuck between floors, resulting in brief entrapments. So that's actually a pretty short list of our facility challenges. It doesn't touch on the safety and accessibility challenges that our current building layout poses, which are abundant. But what I hope it does do is really convey the fact that we do not have long left in our current building before we have to make some really, really serious investments just to keep the building operational. And the thing is, even if we make those investments and we just fix what's broken, so to speak, we are still not going to have a building that can meet the current, let alone the future needs of this community. Because when that building was designed 100 years ago, people did not use libraries like we use them today. So that building is really holding us back in a lot of ways. But The exciting thing about all this is that when you start having to deal with facility issues at this scale, or this level, I guess, is it kind of presents this opportunity to rethink things. And it could allow us to really grow and expand the library in ways that the community has been requesting for years. So we have this opportunity right now to really think about what kind of building do we want, not just for ourselves, but for the generations that are going to follow us here in Middlebury. Library activities outgrew our spaces a long time ago. We know we need more square feet. We know we need more flexibility in those square feet. And we know from all of you giving us feedback over the past several years what you want in a library building. We have a pretty good idea, I think. And if we don't, let us know, because we really want to know. And this project is going to allow us to check off a lot of boxes that has been on the community wish list for a long time. So for example, all of the conceptual designs that you're going to see tonight, they all double the space for youth services. They're all going to have a bigger community meeting room than what we have now, additional small meeting spaces, dedicated spaces for teens, wonderful places to sit and read and work and study, safe family restrooms, even little things like exterior book drop. People have been asking for that for forever, and we can't do it in our current building. So we're gonna be able to do that with this project, plus a lot more. And if there are needs that this project can meet that you don't see reflected in these plans tonight, that's great. Please let us know, because we are at the very beginning of this design process, and the cool part of where we are in this process is we get to make those decisions together. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Joe to talk more about exactly where we are in the process and how we got there.
We're hoping to soon announce the I've been stuck in the Ilsley Library Elevator Club, you know, which is not quite such an elite group as we might wish. Just to give you a quick recap on how we got here, there was the library building committee from 2014 to 2017. When Dana arrived in town, she did a series of focus groups called the Tell Me Tours. The library trustees developed a vision statement for the building, and then the select board struck a working group to think about how to proceed and started the Ilsley 100 project team in March of 2022. And since then, that group has done a lot of work educating ourselves about how libraries work, best practices. We've looked at the space needs of the building, determined some costs, and done a lot of feedback with all of you. And you may recall that last fall we did some work on what in general should be our approach to having a new library. And we looked at four possibilities, and one was to just renovate the current building but not expand it. One was to renovate and maybe add an annex. Another was to build new on an entirely different site. But the one that we got the most positive feedback on was to renovate and expand on the current site. And that is the plan. So we then embarked on a plan to recruit the best architect and design firms in the state of Vermont and engage them in what we're calling a design competition to come up with some ideas for us to look at. Now, one thing that you are going to notice when you look at these designs is that they've all come up with a concept that honors the original building, but they also all envision taking down the existing additions which have been put on more recently. So this picture shows the existing building, which was built when?
1924.
Well, it's a trick question. It's a trick question because if you look over the door, it says 1923, but they didn't finish it until 1924. And of course, although it's the Ilsley Library, we give credit to Colonel Ilsley. It was in fact his widow who matched Colonel Ilsley's gift so that the library could be built. And of course, she doesn't get any credit for that. I'm sure we haven't seen anything like that recently. Anybody know how much the existing building was supposed to cost? Supposed to cost $50,000. Can you believe it? You'll be shocked to hear there were cost overruns. It ended up costing $54,000. So, this picture, you can kind of see the original building here in the center in white. And then about 1977, this addition here was built. And this consists mostly of a staircase and an elevator and a bathroom on the 3rd floor and some room for staff. One of our architects referred to this as the M.C. Escher edition because of the very interesting ways in which the stairs do and don't come together in different spots. In 1988, this addition was put on. This is the one with the bay windows in it, and if you're inside that building, here's what we used to call the reference room on the main floor. And then if you were upstairs here, that's the adult nonfiction. The main floor is adult fiction and DVDs and so on. And then downstairs is the community meeting room. Now, a lot of folks have said to us, can't you just fix those up and then tack on a little bit more room? And you might well think that, but every single professional that we've consulted who's looked at this carefully has come down to the same conclusion. We can meet our needs better and less expensively by taking down those additions and adding more square footage in a different way. And we would be happy to go into detail on that with you. There's a brief explanation on the handout that I hope you got. Now, let's just take a very brief moment to make sure we're all oriented to the way things work, because you're going to be seeing a lot of designs whirring by tonight, and I just want to make sure that we're clear. So, what building is this over here? Okay, this is the town offices, right? There's a little sidewalk in between. This is a door that a lot of people use that is invisible to any staff person inside, right? Okay, so then over here we have a little building with a couple of stores. What's there? Travel agency and the nail salon, right? And next to them is the Marquis Theater, and then the former Ben Franklin building. Now it doesn't show up well in this picture, but if you approach the library from the back and you look over to the right, between the 1988 edition and the Marquis Theater, there's a lawn. There's a grassy space there, and all of our proposed designs are going to make use of that space. Now, I wanted to touch just very briefly with the idea of putting an addition on a historic building. I think when you look at these designs, some of you are going to say, gee, that looks awfully modern. Why doesn't it look more like the original library? Well, architects and historic preservation experts say that you don't actually want an addition to a historic building to imitate the original. You should be able to look at the addition, and it should be clear that it's distinct from the original. It might echo some of those architectural features. It should enhance the original, but it shouldn't imitate the original. So, as you're looking at these designs, I want to remind you that you're looking at what we're calling conceptual designs. We ask these firms for ideas. And computer-assisted design today lets companies produce the most sophisticated, spectacular graphics that you've ever seen. And these designs look like we could break ground tomorrow. That is not the case. If we were looking at these 50 years ago, we would be looking at pencil markings on tracing paper, and if you didn't like something, the architect would just get the eraser out and erase it. And so I'd like you to think about these images, if you can, in the same way. If you see something that doesn't appeal to you, don't panic, okay? If you don't like the type of material that's being proposed for the outside of the building, we can change that. If you don't like where some function is located in the building, we can change that too. So don't get too attached to how things look. We're really looking at big ideas and concepts here. And as you're looking at these designs, there's two things I'd like you to keep in mind. One thing I'd like you to think about is the future. We are naturally biased towards looking at things as they are right now. But we're planning for 50 to 100 years down the road. And what met the needs of the community 50 years ago, when the book stacks were crammed in behind the circulation desk, no longer works. So think about what the needs of the community might be 25, 50 years down the road. We don't know exactly, but just bear in mind, we're not building a library just for the needs of the community today. We're really building for the future residents of Middlebury. And secondly, I'd like you to try to think as best you can to think about this design not only from your own perspective. As Dana alluded to in her opening remarks, we all use the library in our own way, and it's very natural to think about the library and its needs in terms of ourselves. But in fact, there are a lot of users who may not be here tonight to present their perspective and to have a voice in the process. So I'm thinking of parents of young children, teens and tweens who end up in the library after school before their parents are home from work, the people in our community who need a warm place on a cold day in a bathroom, or those with impaired mobility who are challenged with barriers to entry. So, of course, I'm sure that you're going to think about things in terms of how you experience the library, but please try as best you can to think a little bit more clearly about the perspective of others. Okay, well, I'm sure you're eager to hear from our designers, and our first presentation this evening comes from GBA Architects and Planning of Montpelier, formerly known as Gossens Bachman. And I think you'll be hearing first from Steve Credell and Diantha Curzon. So here they are from GBA.
Exciting to be here. First, we want to thank the Ilsley 100 team for the opportunity to be here and be part of this really exciting time for the Ilsley Public Library as it envisions its next 100 years serving the community. Libraries are often the heart of the community, as Dana was talking about earlier, and they create opportunities to bring people together through programming and through services, as Ilsley does for the town of Middlebury. Oh, zippy. Thank you. So my name is Diantha Curzon, and I'm a partner at GBA. And
I'm Steve Credell, also a partner at GBA.
And we wanted to introduce, so what you should expect in the next 20 minutes from us is we're going to guide you through who we are as a design studio and what our initial conceptual design response was based on what we know with the information provided. And it also, we want to just tell you about what it might be like to work with us in case we're selected.
This is an amazing turnout.
Yeah, this is pretty wild. We do a lot of community projects. Almost all of our projects at GBA are public-oriented. We're a community-focused architectural firm. We work on lots of libraries and schools. This is an exceptional turnout, though, I have to say. So, yeah, congratulations. Yeah, you're fine with that. So we have a talented team of architects where collaboration and teamwork are really essential. When we work on projects, we work on them all together. And so it's really important for us to have a full team, everybody working together on the project. And that's who you see up there. That's our team. As I said, we work on school design and libraries, and we really, this community focus is really important to us as well as environmentally and socially responsible projects. Our design awards reflect our commitment to beautiful and sustainable places. Our team has received over 60 international, national, and regional design awards for excellence. In addition, GBA has received numerous sustainability and green design awards for our dedication to integrating the natural and built environment. This includes designing over 10 LEED buildings. White Box Design Studio, we have brought on board with Kelly Bauer and Courtney Cox. We've worked with Courtney Davis.
Courtney Cox is on Friends.
She's nobody else caught that. I was just checking to see if people are still listening. We brought them in because they work on numerous libraries every year, and they're at the forefront of library thinking. So we wanted to have them as a team member and a resource for you. Our typical process, and this is our conceptual design up here for this competition. But our typical process, though, usually involves having discussions with the owner and the community before we put pen to paper. This is a little different process for us since we couldn't discuss the program with the client. So we based our concept design on the RFP, a site walkthrough, with our prior knowledge of working with the library in 2017, and through working on other libraries. So if we're selected, we'll reconsider this design, our design response, of course, but it'll be based on the community and your input for sure. So this is not the final design, and I know Joe mentioned that earlier. Oh dear.
I'm not sure.
Somebody has some music.
So really, that's a big thing. This is concept design. So, and you've seen the image on the left there before. So, and we think the concept's relatively simple here for us. It's to, over the past few editions, to increase program space, there's been buildings that have been glommed onto each side, and they've sort of hidden the beauty of the historic buildings. So we're saying with this new addition, we can still make a flexible container that can change over time, the spaces, but that also highlights what's beautiful about the Ilsley. And so here you can see on the previous slide it said there 50% of the building is currently covered by additions, and we're looking to expose 100%. You say, how's that possible? And so really what we're saying is when you get inside to the entryway, where it connects from the parking lot to Main Street, that is really a glass link, a corridor. And from there you see the inside of the building, from the outside of the 1924 building from the inside. And this sort of sums up the idea. Whoops. I'm going to do that one more time just because it's pretty fast, and now I can talk through it. Here we go. So this is walking from Main Street towards the entry. We'll walk past, this is the part that's covered by the 88 edition, but the key things that you could have missed looking at the building is you see the welcome desk right away from the entry. So here's this person spinning around. You can see the elevator and the stairs and looking back into the reading room. And then bridges up above, so open space for the first and second floor. It's really highlighting the 1924 building. But then as you walk in this side, you can see the welcome desk is there too. So it's really, and there's a book drop. So it's really about that, this is the central community hub.
This is the first floor plan, and just building on that video that Steve was showing, we wanted to emphasize the 1924 building. You can see the full building with taking off those additions. The other primary item that we want to talk about was just putting the circulation desk where all the entries were visible and accessible to the users. And so you can see that through the video as well as in plan here. So that's our circulation desk. And so just really clear connections to both entries we thought was really important. Also, what Steve was talking about with our conceptual design response, we looked at having just a really simple container that was flexible for the new addition. We love this because it just has a lot of opportunity to expand or change over time, and that's important. Because you guys, we hopefully will be here for another 100 years for sure. Our community, the community space, we know that it's down, it's kind of down below now. Now we have it up on the first floor. It is fully, you're able to cut that, open it up at night and when the library is not in use. And we have the adult stacks over in the existing building, and we love the building that you have over here, we thought that would be appropriate.
And then even opening up to this sort of reading area between the town offices, where and that's where the 88 edition is too. So.
Now this is the lower level. Right now where it says storage here in the 1924 building, that's where the children are now. We've just dedicated it to storage and to the staff, a staff break area in the back, which might have a little bit more opportunity for daylight. Also what we put down in the lower level of the new building is MCTV. We thought that this gives the opportunity to have higher ceilings, being able to acoustically separate it easily. It also, if you look at that upper left photo that we have there, and most of these photos are from projects that we've done or that White Box has been working on in their libraries, but this is what a studio could look like. So you might be able to see in, but acoustically separated still. This is a second floor plan. I think this really depicts that connection between the new and the old. That little connector right there is a bridge, basically, and you can kind of look down and see and connect to the circulation desk below. This is where we have the middle school and high school, and there's a lot of chance of flexibility here, opportunities for flexibility with furniture to kind of rearrange like those spaces, and again, without input from you guys, you know, we made a good guess at it, but it does provide tons of opportunities with this simple container.
And the big thing is making delineating those spaces with furniture rather than walls. And also picking up on cues about what the existing and old is. So, or the originals, the community living room looking down at the adult section, and then when you enter from the elevator looking down into the other. So there's some similarities between this edition and the existing.
This is our third floor plan, which is even with MCTV, the floor level of MCTV that you have now. And this plan, this is where we put the children, and we thought that they should be out of the basement and up and kind of celebrated up in the place that might have the opportunity for the most daylight, and also be kind of like a safe space. We've created, you can see there's a roof terrace that is adjacent to the children's area. This is a great place for programming, for not only for the children's group, but it's a great place for anybody in the community to go out and sit on the terrace and have nice views.
We really think it'd be a cool spot to sit up there and actually look at the roof of the Ilsley and to look at the creek beyond. It's just a really unusual opportunity.
This is a site plan, so we're looking down on the roofs right now. Again, you can emphasize that 1924 building, and that bridge is a connector with the simple box that we have in between. You can also see that roof terrace still, but you notice that we have a lot of green space, as many opportunities as possible, because we know that you already have existing programs where you use those outdoor gardens a lot. We want to build on that and create any opportunity possible for more programming and connection to the outdoors. And you can see that a little bit better. Steve touched upon having that, with the stairs and elevator, removing that area gives us an opportunity to have a connection with the town offices that you have a little bench there now, and I know that's highly used, but this gives a little bit opportunity to give a little bit more breathing room and a connection with that building as well.
And so that's the general idea of the concept that we're going with. And a big thing is, Diane mentioned, we're used to working with the community early on, and at the beginning of a project, we didn't have that opportunity here, but we had some great info. And so the Ilsley 100 project team and Dana put together these challenges and these pillars. And so we took those, and so I just want to show how we would normally work with you all, and if we were lucky enough to move forward, we would start to revisit these ideas again. So we're saying, we took all this information and said, where do these things, where do they overlap? And how can we start to decipher all these different challenges and pillars and respond to them in a building? And so these are the sorts of questions we're asking ourselves, but in a lot of ways we would normally be asking you, and we would be saying, hey, here's our ideas about safety, let's increase sight lines. And so we did that with bridges and connections through the first and second floor. We have low furniture, so we don't have shelves blocking the way, and we have glass in the meeting rooms on the second floor of the 1924 building. But again, these are just things we're going to talk with the community about. And this is really to emphasize that this is concept design. So accessibility, we took that to mean, what's important to us is have an accessible entrance from Main Street and have an accessible entrance from the parking lot, both sides. And that's just one piece of accessibility. There's also, you have to think about how people feel in a space. Some people can't take loud noises. Some people don't like big open spaces. And so it's gotten way bigger than just mobility in terms of accessibility. And so we'd really have to work with you about finding the right balance with the solutions. And so we'd work with you for this. And you can do it in interesting ways that don't always require hard walls. So those chairs on the left, that's some really nice library chairs where someone can be cozy and reading a book and be kind of by themselves in the middle of an open space. And so there's really interesting ways without building hard walls and just maximizing flexibility. And another thing, we said flexible container with storage. It's gigantic to have, incredibly important to have the right amount of storage. And you need the storage that you can put in the basement where you're only going to use stuff 2 times a year. But I think more important is that storage that you need to put away for 2 days and then bring it back out. And so where is all that stuff and how is it designed in the space? And even, so the stuffberry concept, casework concept, it's the things that if you're lending out a microscope, where is that stored? And do people even know that you can lend those things out? If we can start to put this stuff on display, then you can have some really interesting responses. Maintenance, we're going to talk about, it's probably pretty clear. We say that in terms of maintenance, we want things to be durable, but a big reason for this is so that the staff isn't spending time cleaning and taking care of things, and that they're focused on patrons and programming. And then also the funds that go to the library, they're not taking care of things that are not standing the test of time, but are going to programming. Flexibility, I think this image is great, showing that people can move furniture around, it's not fixed, and so they start to become user-defined spaces. They can make it what they want. And it has to be comfortable for the patrons. And this is probably the most fun one, but also really difficult, because comfort means a bunch of different things to different people. Like I'd have a hard time sitting in that round chair, but some kids
But
would.
I would love that.
And so there's all different kinds of things that we'll come with and say, hey, what do you think? Functionality for staff. The staff needs a place to go and sort of regenerate and have a place of their own, but then also when they're at their station, that they have the right equipment and capabilities that they can serve the patrons really well and aren't running off looking for something and that has to do with tech support too. So we didn't do much on tech support because that's not really that much with the building, but this is a fun one to talk about too. Even there are buildings now, those robots in the middle, they go to cars and take the books. That's where people don't even want the book truck. They want the robot. Now this one's very specific here, and we think this should be celebrated. And gosh, I would love to go down and watch the studio and see what's going on in here. We putting that front and center, I think it's just a real opportunity. Like right now they're in the attic. I'm sure a lot of people don't know what's up there. So. And then outdoor programming space, we have it on the roof, and we see that what the Ilsley's done with outdoor programming space already, just building upon that. And we see that as the place for surprise and delight, just taking every corner so that the library is going out to the property lines, not just confined within the building. So on the upper left, it's the roof garden. We have the garden over by the parking lot, and then the outdoor reading area facing Main Street. And then inside here, the surprise and delight is coming into the building and being represented with a 1924 building.
And these are all sketches that we've done, and we consider those computer-generated sketches as sketchy as our hand drawings over here to the right. So this is just the beginning.
I won't touch on this. Joe did a great job. We have a rectangular box, or a square box, really, that is just, we wanted it to be complementary of the existing building and not try to overshadow it, but be respectful and honor the 1924 building. That's really what we were going with. And down here we were trying to hold the eave lines And the roof of the existing Ilsley is kind of playful with the arched dormers, the gabled dormers, the hip dormers. And so we said this third floor that we put on here, that is like our new dormer. And that's with the skylights coming on. And so it's trying to pick up on some of the major pieces, but in a different way. And so we're showing this. This is the Ilsley, or the Kellogg Hubbard Library in Montpelier. This is that link that we're talking about. In our case here, that's that community hub where the stairs, or where the welcome desk would be. And this is it from the inside. And you can see we're a similar treatment where you can see from the outside, you can see the existing building, and that starts to come on to the inside. And so that's really what we're going for. So.
Sustainable design permeates all the work that we do at GBA, but instead of going through our whole process for sustainability, since time is limited, we just wanted to share with you a couple of the buildings that we're proud of. One of our proudest moments was actually to get this project teaming with VEIC, the Efficiencies Vermont's main building in Winooski a couple of years ago. They selected us for our commitment and dedication to sustainable design. We're known for designing buildings that have a low operational carbon footprint, and now we're moving towards low embodied carbon buildings. These are just some other examples. Almost all of our projects have PV or some kind of something that kind of gets us closer to net zero or net zero positive buildings.
It's really just ingrained in everything we do.
So are we done? Okay. Well, thanks for having us. We hope we created a design solution here that honors the historic 1924 Carnegie-style building while providing a forward-thinking solution that has elements of both surprise and delight.
I threatened people that we would, if they went beyond their time, we would tell the orchestra to play them off. And thanks very much, Diantha and Steve, that was great. And they touched on a couple of things, and I should say that every one of the design firms we talked to complained bitterly about the fact that our design competition did not permit them to kind of come and get ideas with us, because they all said, look, this is not how we like to work, but so we apologize to you for that. And I wanted to thank you guys as well for calling out the role of the staff, which is absolutely essential. And again, when you're considering how the building is used, you can think about you who go in there, for a few minutes or a few hours a week, and our staff for whom it's their workplace. Okay, well, we have now arrived at the audience participation portion of tonight's show. And in just a minute, I am going to invite you to turn to one or two people next to you, introduce yourselves if you don't know each other, and then take 3 minutes, okay, to talk about what you liked about that presentation. You might want to take a minute or two also to jot down something on your comment card about that. Now, at the end of those 3 minutes, you will see a slide that is telling you to shush, okay? And you will hear this sound, okay? And so at that time, you will stop talking and we'll move on to the next presentation, okay? So ready? 3 minutes, what you liked about that presentation. Go. You probably don't believe that was 3 minutes, but I have Ken Perrine sitting in the front row with his watch, timing you precisely. So our second presentation this evening comes from Vermont Integrated Architects of Middlebury, also known as VIA, and you're going to be hearing from Andrea Murray and Ben Allred. So here they are.
Good evening, Middlebury. It's wonderful to see so many friends and neighbors here tonight. Thank you all for coming out on a rare sunny evening. I'm Andrea Murray, and I'm co-founder and principal architect of Vermont Integrated Architecture. We are a 12-person architecture firm located in the historic Marble Works district here in Middlebury. I'm joined this evening by my dear friend and colleague of over 20 years, architect Ben Allred. And I wanted to say my partner, Asher Nelson, really wanted to be here tonight. He is not able to be here, but I did see his mom somewhere here in front. Anyway, it's a privilege. It's been a privilege to work on a design concept for our hometown library. It's a bit humbling. We are excited to share our ideas with you, but as everyone has said so far, please remember that these are just preliminary ideas, and we're really excited to hear from you because your ideas are what will make our design certainly much better. So please come talk to us afterward. We really love libraries. They are so important. In fact, I think they might be genuinely one of the most important community centers we have. They are free. They are welcoming to all people, age, race, faith, socioeconomic background, gender, and in a world where we are living more disparate lives and where we are working hard to be more integrated and diverse, libraries can help facilitate that. I would also say for visitors to our community, libraries are a great place to come and really take the pulse of what's going on, what we care about. And I guess finally I would just say with respect to resiliency, libraries often act as safe havens for people who have no other place to go. Whether it's to use the restroom, whether it's to use a computer to escape the weather, or even as we've seen in the last week, a place to come to access resources in the event of a natural disaster. So we're looking forward to sharing our design ideas with you, and I'm going to let Ben tell you a little bit more about context.
Thank you. It's great to be here tonight. There are so many things that inform our design. And we mentioned that the biggest thing is feedback from not only the client, but the community, and also the needs of the spatial needs of the library, design the library from the inside out. There are other things that we take design inspiration from, and that's designing from the outside in. We look to the context to really inform what the design wants to be. And we looked at downtown Middlebury. I don't have to tell any of you that our downtown area has such a unique character. And what we're looking at here is the Google view of the downtown area. And right here, the blue is the library. This is the roundabout, Otter Creek. And then we're slightly off the page right now in Town Hall Theater. But one of the things that we notice that adds to that unique character is how intimate this main street is, the tight corridor that you go through along the commercial block and the intimate spaces along the sidewalk and the street. With the businesses and the storefronts welcoming you in. But also, in contrast to that tightness and that intimacy, we found that there are these moments of relief. For example, where you're looking over the bridge at Otter Creek or at Triangle Park. One of the larger moments of relief is happening right here in front of the library, which we felt was really important to the character of that space, that outdoor space. The original library sets back from the sidewalk and has a sense of singularity that sets it apart from the commercial block and sets it apart as a unique institution, which we felt was very important to continue. In addition, on the creek side of the library, the area in white, there's potential for future development there with the EDI site. Whatever happens there, which is exciting to visualize and look towards the future, that development is going to create a new front to the library, a new street, if you will, that the library can interact with and create a new character with. So that's something that we're also being incorporated into our thoughts about the design. One of the most exciting things that we are reacting to with our design is the historic nature of the original building. It's such a stately building. It has a monumentality and a strong sense of symmetry. We love how it's raised up on a plinth, if you will, and you climb the grand staircase into the historic entry. There's beautiful proportion and thought and detail, both inside and out, beautiful materials, both inside and out. And that kind of thing really, really gets our creative juices flowing. This is such a well-loved and important historic building. To receive public funding for the project, we will need design approval from the state authorities on historic preservation. We've consulted with the State Division of Historic Preservation, and we were guided by the Secretary of Interior's standards for historic preservation in our design process. And so we were brought to ask ourselves, how do we not only honor and enhance this historic character, but how can the new architecture and spaces be integrated with the historic building? How can we give it a new use, a new life, and a new vitality? Specifically, the huge goal for this project is to make sure that the historic building continues to be relevant, well-loved, and well-used for generations to come.
So library architecture has actually changed since 1923, 1924, when this building was constructed. It was usually, or older buildings, older libraries were designed as repositories for really precious books, books as artifacts. And books have become not less precious because we love our books, but more easy to find, easier to print. And so we no longer need to limit the amount of windows and natural light we have in a building, or the stacks aren't just storage areas where we're storing these. We can open them up and allow people to actually move through them. And so thinking about the building now, let's make it a building for people, not just for books. So what you see here on the screen, on the left is a site plan, and it really just talks a little bit about some of the outside influences on the building. Here's the proposed building, here's Main Street, here is the east side of the building facing the Otter Creek. But what I really want to talk to you about, is this simple diagram here on the right. This diagram attempts to really quickly define the overall big idea for the project. And so what you see here in blue are two areas, we're calling them nuclei. The larger blue area is the historic building of the library, and the smaller blue area is the second nuclei. It houses other gathering spaces like the community meeting space, the children's meeting space, activity room, etc. And then holding them all together, you have to pardon the metaphor, holding them all together is a membrane. And the membrane has all the other functions, the circulation spaces for people, the circulation spaces for books and collections. It also has support services, facilities, restrooms, etc. And then the red is the part that's really exciting to me, because we're proposing we're proposing a library that has two fronts. It's very hard to have a back here. We have two fronts, one front facing Main Street, and then the other front facing the river and the east side of the building. And these two fronts come together in the center at the circulation desk. So no matter which way you come into the building, you are confronted with a happy face, somebody to help you navigate the building, and also so library staff can see who's coming, make sure people are being serviced appropriately.
So this is where it gets a little bit exciting. We really took to heart the idea of making having a big idea and making a big move to really integrate the historic building with the new. And so what you're looking at, use the pointer here. This is the library and plan. These are the two additions that are proposed to be removed. This is a section cut, as if you slice the building in half and you're looking at that building vertically right here. And this right here, this is the stairs coming up outside from Main Street. You can see the columns here. And this is the current reading room. What we're proposing to do is behind where the current circulation desk is, there is a really, really tight area here. The ceiling heights are really, really small. So we're proposing to take that floor, this area right here, and lower it down to the level of the ground so that it's completely accessible from the sidewalk and parking areas. And then also, just to make it even better, we're proposing to take out portions of the second and third floor to create a nice open atrium space with a skylight to let in lots of light. Here's a more kind of three-dimensional view of that we can walk through. Again, walking up the stairs into the original front entry. This is the reading room, which we're proposing becomes a community living room. And then right here, where the floor would have normally gone across, it drops down, opens up. You can look over the railing through these beautiful wood columns down to the circulation desk here. Or you can walk in from the creek side, right on the ground level, and see all the way up to that reading room. And we're going to show you a couple images that express that. This is what it looks like now. You probably recognize that. Interestingly enough, this was put out on Instagram, I think. This is what that view actually looked like before, with all the book stacks tightly fit in there. And then this is what we're proposing. Same view. As you walk in, you can see these columns here. These are those columns. But now we're opening that up, seeing all the way through to the creek side and creating this lit central core that becomes the center of that space.
Let's do a walkthrough.
You guys want to see a walkthrough like GBA did? Okay. Not to be competitive or anything.
You're on the Main Street side of the building now, the historic entrance.
Climbing up and into this new space. Now again, look, we've opened that up beyond. This is a nice, comfortable reading space now. You can go down to that area where that woman is. We're going to just jump over the railing, actually, instead. The second floor open to below. The third floor also open, looking up at the skylight and the lovely weather. The sun having an active part of this space, giving it lots of light and a sense of time. Now we're backing out of the new entrance, being able to see the stone of the east side of the original building, a nice new front porch and outdoor plaza area. To the left, you see the town offices, and this is the new entry. If we have time, we'll go back and watch that again.
Okay. So I was just going to walk you really quickly through the floor plans. We want to make a caveat or tell you that this building is designed, all of the new structure is designed to be what we would call a column and beam structure, or a structure that's like a skeleton, so that it's the skeleton that's holding up the building, and all the walls can be reconfigured. So it's an infinitely flexible space. So if you decide, or if our community decides 10 years down the road that the children shouldn't be on the second floor, they should be on the third floor or on the first floor, we can make that happen. And I think it's important because when people ask us, what is the library of the future? We tend to jump to, oh, technology, or all sorts of things, but really we don't know what the library of the future is. We know you're going to need a library, but perhaps flexibility is really the key here. So, whoops. This is the main floor, and Ben's just going to point out the two entrances to the building. The east entrance facing the creek, and the main entrance from Main Street. If you come in from the creek side, one of the things that's really exciting to me is that you're seeing the building from the bridge. When we built the Cross Street Bridge, we didn't realize that we were going to be looking at the backs of all these buildings. Now we have this building that has fronts. We have space on the ground floor for a community meeting room that is flexible and accessible after hours. We have lots of spaces for staff, and we have an outdoor book drop that goes right into the staff room. And we have some of the most frequented items. If you want to come in quickly, read a newspaper, check out the latest fiction, etc. The second floor is dedicated entirely to the youth collections, and it kind of goes from left to right, the youngest to the teens, over on the corner near the town offices. And, you know, who wouldn't want to take a bath in the bathtub right in front of the window looking out over Main Street? On the uppermost floor, we have the remaining adult collections. We have a series of staff and staff spaces, and then we have a series of small meeting rooms and places for people to come and study, small businesses to work, even places for the friends who have a large, lovely space up here with easy access to the elevator and the stair, but they can use one of the meeting rooms if they need it for sorting, and then an office for our director and assistant.
This is showing the Creekside entry. We wanted to use a building form and materials that were natural, the durable, low maintenance, and the forms that would express the activity going on inside the library, but also a form that was able to embrace the historic. I would love for you to come and take a look at the model, get down on your knees, because that's the best point of view, right, to see it from this.
Or we'll lift it up for you.
Yeah, we can lift it up for you too. But please come and check out, and I'd love to share more about the materials and form with you.
Just a few more images here, and I want to talk a bit about sustainability. You know, taking care of our community involves also taking care of the planet. These ideas are inextricably linked, and we often start our projects with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and you'll see that there are some things here that add to what we typically think about when we talk about sustainability. So we're not just talking about energy efficiency and carbon, but we're going beyond to consider poverty in our community, health and well-being, education. So these are all things we take very seriously. But we do know buildings, and we know how to make buildings that are energy efficient, and we imagine this building as a building that is not using fossil fuels. No oil, no propane, natural gas. To do that with an historic building is really tricky. And one of the things that, with this building in particular, is we have historic fabric, we call it. Precious stone on the exterior, beautiful wood on the interior. It's going to be very difficult to accept public funds and not change those. So this orange area you're seeing is what we're calling the hug, or the wrap around. We're embracing that historic building, we're making new space there, and we're also creating a very efficient building envelope. And that comes up over the top as well. And you know, it kind of leads to our theme that's both literal and, I guess, theoretical, we would say that our project is about embracing the past, but looking to the future. So, in summary, I'd just like to say, if you take these points away about our presentation, we love libraries and we recognize their critical importance in our communities, and we know that the community knows the library best of all. We're really excited to hear your feedback because it will make our design richer. The historic building must be embraced and house a most important function that continues to be used as Mrs. Ilsley wanted it to be used for the next 100 years. So thank you again. This is one of the most important building projects our community will take on, and it would be a privilege to work with you to realize your vision for it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea and Ben. It's your turn again, okay? You got 3 minutes. Things you liked about this presentation, you might want to jot some down on your card here. And of course, you will stop when you hear the chime in again, right? Okay, 3 minutes, go. All right, love the enthusiasm. Our third and final presentation this evening comes from a team composed of Weimann Lamphere Architects from Colchester and ReArch Company of South Burlington. You'll be hearing from Steve Roy from Weimann Lamphere and Chris Huston from ReArch.
Thank you, Joe. Good evening. My name is Chris Huston. And I'm Steve Roy from Weimann Lamphere Architects. So it's clearly a pleasure to see you all. I see friends, I see family, residents, I even see the select board. Town manager Ramsey's here. This is a packed house. So we're excited. Given that we are the third team, Steve and I are going to try to channel Doug Anderson's stage presence. It will not be easy. We're going to try. We're going to try to keep it to 19 minutes and keep your attention for the whole thing. Now, you're going to see here, some of you maybe know of the children's book, The Secret Garden. It was published in 1911, just 13 or 12 years, depending on the date, before Ilsley Library opened. What we hope that you're going to see through our presentation is that we've reflected the secret garden notion in our early concept design. So with that, we're also going to do a very quick introduction of our teams, who we are. Now, I will say, if you can just back up real quick, there's going to be a little bit of repetition, you'll see, I think, from each of the presentations. There's been some nice overlap with some of the design concepts and approaches, as well as some great differences. And I think the Ilsley 100 project team has really been excited about those differences. There's a lot of talent that has come from the Vermont Architects today, so that's really exciting. Now I'll just note really quickly, we did not do a fly-through. However, we do have this little goggle symbol over here in the lower corner, indicates that afterwards we have some 3D virtual reality. If you'd like to come over and check out our spaces, you can actually, on each of these images that has one of these, you can actually walk around. So we'd love for you to come over and see the context of our building in the downtown. So with that, I'd like to introduce, we've seen the other teams. The slide we have here is just a demonstration of some of the people that would be most often present in this process, but there is a lot more people behind the scenes. I'm Steve Roy, Weimann Lamphere Architects, one of the partners. Kelly DeRoche is here as well to help us. We do have some additional staff within the office here as well to enjoy this evening. And I'd like to also take some time to recognize Dennis Humphreys. He is a thought leader from Colorado. He has done over 130 library commissions and has been a resource for us in the past, in particular at South Burlington Library, a project that we did a few years back. His expertise is really something that we can pull from. We want to make this a project that is specific to Middlebury, and it is about community and getting all the great ideas that you have, but we can also pull from the national expertise of Dennis. And as ReArch, I'm representing ReArch Company, Chris Huston, Vice President of Pre-Construction. We are unique in that we did team up on this project. We'll touch on that in just a moment. We're also unique in that many of our founders, John Illick, our CEO, grew up here in Middlebury. Bert DeLabriere, our chief estimator, spent 21 years of his career working here in Middlebury. I myself, I was here 14 years. I led the majority of the most recent municipal projects, including the town office, recreation center, and also the Middlebury, the fire department. Now, with that, if the next slide, Steve, you might be asking, why is that important to us? Why, that's great experience in Middlebury. But the one thing is that by having this unified team of architect and builder, we're really leveraging the best of our past experiences. We have significant experience managing and running municipal projects, making sure that they're on time and on budget. I know it's a little bit cliche, but it is very, very important for our public projects to have that, responsibility. We're also really excited that we're allowed to engage in this process so early on to allow us really to have the most influence on the overall project cost and the overall design. Now, just really quickly, we have heard about the top 10 design challenges. The team gave us really great guidance. All of the teams, the three competitor teams, were given great guidance on these top 10 design challenges. They were then filtered into the design pillars, these 6 design pillars. We hope that as we get right into presenting our concept, our initial ideas, that you'll see that we've really reflected the design challenges as well as the pillars. Most notably, we're very excited, as in the other teams, core to our values are about sustainability. Now, we're seeing it, we're living it, and we're seeing it throughout the state and throughout the country and throughout the world. It is core to our values. We're very excited that that is one of the aspects that this team has decided is very important. Energy efficiency, carbon reduction, and overall sustainability. And we'll touch on that in our design in a moment.
You've also heard this evening that the design process that we've taken so far to get to this point is one without a lot of personal interaction with the group and the community. That's, of course, a major piece of designing a building, is having those communications and talking and understanding what is most important to you. So the process so far has what we call move in and understand. It's really getting to know what are the needs. And we've been provided a program of space, which has been extremely helpful. And adjacencies, the Ilsley 100 team has looked at how those adjacencies need to fit together to make a successful project. And we've seen some written project goals. What we haven't had is a lot of discussion and feedback. So we're kind of at a point where it's extremely early in the process and there's a long way to go. As we looked at our development of the Secret Garden concept, we started looking at different ways that we could utilize the site. We actually started with a 3-story concept. And as we moved forward, we found that we could best meet the program needs by changing it to a 2-story concept. So that is one of distinguishing features that you'll see this evening from the various concepts, is that ours is based on 2 stories. So the overall goals, we need to meet the program needs that have been so well outlined by the Ilsley 100 team. We want to minimize the floors to reduce the amount of staff. That's a key part of our philosophy, is having staff on a limited basis where they don't have to try to keep track of more than 2 floors. We want to maintain the integrity of the historic building, so we are restoring it. We are not changing it in any major way. And most importantly, we want to create a safe, welcoming, and sustainable environment for the entire community to enjoy for the next 100 years. Much like the other teams, all of our process begins by analyzing the site. We want to look at where vehicles will travel, where pedestrians might circulate around the building and between buildings. We want to look at where views may happen up towards the river, views from the bridge to the building, and all throughout the city, town. And we want to analyze the buildings that are adjacent to it. How can we approach them? How can we create spaces between them? All part of the analysis for the project. When we looked at the goals and how it fits onto the site, considering that Main Street accessibility, how do we get people from Main Street into the building? We actually are one of the teams that brought the building right out to the street. We tried to create a continuation of the streetscape. And there are various ways that this can be handled, and we've shown one option. We've wanted to focus on entry that is compatible with vehicle approach. And we've wanted to enhance a pedestrian connection that occurs between the town office and the Ilsley Library. So really trying to define some of those pedestrian pathways and provide more options for people. We also wanted to focus on what we could do with the parking area. And what we've done is use this space on the back side of the building to close it off and create a plaza that could be used for book sales. There could be, the bookmobile could be there, food trucks, things to bring activity to that portion of the site as well. This is a three-dimensional view showing exactly what I was just talking about, where we have the bookmobile. This is, say a Saturday morning where there's an event that could happen. So we take away the vehicles from this area and use it as an outdoor space. This shows the entrance from that pedestrian alley, and what is the secret garden up on the second floor, which we'll continue with. The first floor goals started as sketches. What is the most important space? How do we fit all these spaces within? When we get right into the floor plan, one of the things that we needed were entrances that are accessible and easy to find. The three arrows indicate the points of entry to the building, and the star in the middle indicates the circulation desk, visible. They are able to see all of the entry points from that one location. And once entering the building, we're here showing the existing historic building to the left, a skylight just above, which would allow you to see the upper portion of the existing building, and through glass, the children's library to the right. So really trying to provide visibility to many different things throughout.
And straight ahead on that image was the main circulation desk, that control point that we talked about.
Another important aspect of our proposal is to have community spaces that are convenient and accessible after hours. So we've located these spaces here in a way where the community room, the conference room, toilets, facilities, kitchenette can all be used after hours. Another main aspect of our proposal is to have the children's library on the first floor, convenient to the entrance. Those that bring strollers in will have less area to navigate through. It also provides a place where there can be a lot of natural light on that sort of southeastern corner. And here's a potential interior rendering of that children's space. Some windows towards the edge, and a place to put the tub as well. And also one of the main features is by having the circulation desk in the center, that allows good visibility. So all the arrows indicate that they can see down to the main entrance on Main Street. They can see the stairway in its entirety and get a sense of the adult gathering space. They can see into the elevator or the other two entrances as well. This view is from the circulation desk, and I'll point out that we do have a virtual reality of this space, so you can pan around and see what you would see from that perspective. Similarly, on the second floor, we have identified the main things that we want to try to show within our concept, all initially as a sketch, turning into a hard floor plan that is still very changeable. One of the priorities was to get a protected, peaceful, and programmable roof garden. So we've allocated a fair amount of space on the second floor for this roof garden, which could be used for artwork or art classes, programmed for different age groups at different times of the day. Really the hope is to allow it to be flexible enough that it can become whatever the community desires. Here's an exterior aerial view of that and how it's interaction. You can look over into the parking lot, you can look over into the entrance. It is protected from those spaces though by being a floor up.
Just to be very clear on that last image, that space can be very, very flexible. It can be used for food trucks, for Friends of the Library book sale. So it's also used at times for parking and circulation.
Here's an exterior rendering of that rooftop space. And again, I'll point out that we do have a virtual reality of this one where you can pan around and see, and it's really pretty interesting. One of the other goals of our project was to create a very light-filled and open reading room for the adults. It is immediately off of the green roof terrace. It is close to the circulation desk, accessible to all portions of the existing library as well. And a quick view, again, virtual reality of this corner. Quick view, but what you see in the background out of the windows is the backside of the current library. And again, another view from that upper floor. Look, you see some skylights on top of the stairway. And one of the aspects of our proposal is to expose the existing library. And what we're doing is having some skylights that are adjacent to it to let light filter from the outside down the walls of the existing library, and then making them part of the interior of the spaces that are created. And again, circulation and visibility, a key aspect of the program. So we've got 2 floors, 2 circulation desks with very good visibility. So in summary, one of the main aspects of our proposal is to limit the use of the basement for essentially staff areas, storage of lesser used materials, and some mechanical space. And then 2 floors overall. What we're doing with the existing attic is actually going to use it as an option to insulate it, air seal it, and just let it be attic, and not try to use that space any further.
Super easy way to make it very energy efficient. I'll also point out really quickly that we're proposing a mass timber structural frame that you see in this sort of warm colored wood tone.
Thanks, Chris. So this diagram is a section through the building. Again, just trying to point out that our option is 2 stories in height and not 3 or 4 even. What we're trying to do is, be lower than the existing building, and in order to do that, we've matched the existing height of the upper mezzanine level, and have tried to make it an accessible and parking lot level lower floor. Our Main Street approach is one where we've looked to tie in a portion of the library that is present and is obvious to visitors. The intent is to fit in along with the scale of existing buildings, and make it an approachable, transparent entrance that is inviting for people. One of the things we've discussed and we'll continue to talk about and what the best option is, but perhaps the front entry becomes, of the original library, becomes a front porch, and that's now a place to hang out, but no longer an entrance itself.
And this is actually one of the areas where we received some feedback from the Architectural Design Advisory. Last 2 slides, 2 minutes. Ken Prine says to me, and where do we go from here? This is going to be the new heart of downtown Middlebury. As the other teams have said, this is a career highlight project for our community, for us as professionals. Next slide, Steve. So in summary, we've got a 2-story concept, we have 2 primary main entries, and we have a secret garden. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve and Chris. Okay, it's your turn to talk. Last chance, okay? You got 3 minutes. What do you like about this design, okay? Thank you all so much for your enthusiasm. I hope you've seen some really interesting ideas here and imaginative ideas here tonight. And shortly, we're going to give you the opportunity to come up and look at these designs more closely and ask questions of the architects and the project team. But first, we want to give you a sense of a couple of things. First, our timeline, and then our budget. And I'm sure you are wondering, how much does each of these designs cost? And we gave each of these teams pretty strict budget parameters, and they kept to them. They've each submitted very detailed budgets for their designs. They're all more or less in the same ballpark, and what our architectural advisory group has said is, it's all going to shift and change as we move ahead. So we think there's a fair amount of room for cost savings. We don't want to make a decision kind of purely on cost at this time, but I'm sure if you ask them, they will tell you the dollar figure that they had in mind. Now, we feel that we have pretty good momentum on this project. We'd like to move forward with it. Here's our optimistic timeline. The Ilsley 100 project team will make a recommendation to the select board to choose one of our design firms to work with later this month, and the town administration will negotiate the terms of a contract with them. We'll start working with the selected firm on the schematic or more detailed designs in the fall, and this will include more opportunities for public input for sure. And while that's happening, we'll be conducting a fundraising feasibility study to see what we might be able to expect from private donations. And we should also have a better sense of the response to some of our grant applications by late fall. Although I do have to inform you that Dana Hart received a letter from Bernie Sanders' office saying that unfortunately our application had not proceeded into the Senate Appropriations budget. And we're going to frame that and put it on the wall next to a very similar letter from Senator Leahy from last year. And Dana says we have that application down so well that next year is going to be our year. By the fall, we should have a sense of whether we can actually afford to proceed with a $15 million project. And so during that time, we'll be exploring with the select board the appetite of the town for a bond vote to support this project, and if so, for how much. Dana and I spent some time at the polls on town meeting day, and person after person came by and said to us, "We love the library, we love the library," and our question to them is, how much do you love the library? Because you do understand that a bond vote would mean raising your taxes. How much are you willing to raise your taxes for this incredible project? So we'll look at our funding sources. If we feel confident about moving ahead with a bond vote, we'll try that for March of 2024. Now, the last time we tried this renovation expansion project, we did not go forward. No. And we want to make sure that we do go forward this time. So we're going to look very closely at the funding situation. We want to make sure that we're good stewards of taxpayers' money. The most optimistic scenario is the one where we have the schematic designs completed, we have a positive read on the amount of private funds we might raise, we got positive responses from our grant applications, the select board's fully behind us in terms of a bond vote, and if all those stars align, we would hope to have a successful bond vote in March of 2024 and maybe break ground next summer or early fall. If we don't see the $15 million there, then we're going to work very closely with the select board and continue to seek other sources of funding. We could even wrap the library project going forward should there be some progress on the EDI site development. But anyway, if you have $15 million to spare, would you please let me know right after this meeting? Well, the Ilsley 100 project team's been doing a lot of work. We serve at the pleasure of the select board, and I'd like to invite Select Board Chair Brian Carpenter to the stage to say just a few words. So here comes Brian.
I'm amazed at the turnout. This is wonderful. I do love this community. I love how the community always rallies and comes out and participates. A few thanks here. First, I'd like to thank our IPL 100 team. They've done, really, they put a lot of time in, and you know, the checks that we've been writing them are nowhere near what they put in for time. They serve at their pleasure for the love of the community, and they've been meeting frequently, and so a round of applause for the IPL. Secondly, I'd like to thank our 3 design teams that stepped forward. I love the fact that we have 3 teams that are local, and they put a lot of effort into envisioning what our library could be. We did put up a stipend to help offset some of their expenses, but you know, I know that they're doing this at a loss, and for their love of doing a local project, and so thank you for wonderful work. Our community's done a lot in recent years. We've really kind of redesigned or refreshed our downtown, and we recognize that the library is in need of that refreshment. The library is challenged with some of the infrastructure. If you've done your walk through there, they've had a lot of open houses, and we know we need to invest in the library. We are a little astounded at the price. Like Joe says, if anybody wants a naming, we're more than happy to have you do that. I'm just curious though, how many from outside the local community, who is not a Middlebury voter that's came out to see this? Wow. I figured as much. We do get a lot of non-Middlebury residents that use the library. It's a gem for the greater community, as many things are here in Middlebury. And so, as a select board member, you know, we have a responsibility to try to be fiscally responsible, and we will be grappling with that over the coming months, along with all the bills that we're getting from the storms. So we ask for your support. We also ask for your understanding that the library, well, it's huge for us, and we really want to and need to get this done. There's a lot of challenges that we're trying to balance. It's a function of trying to balance and keep everybody whole. A question for you before I step off the stage. If we were to proceed on a fully bond vote, just curious, those that are in the audience today, who would be willing to accept a 15% tax increase for the next 20 years to fund this? Show of hands. Okay. This is just a straw poll, and we will have to, as things progress, we'll be coming out, and we ask you to be vocal, but also to encourage all of your neighbors to vote, and not just those that have a vested interest in the library, because we want to make sure we're doing the right thing. And we do look for all opportunities to share the cost with all users, not just local taxpayers. And so that's why we're looking for things like grants, and state support, federal support, anything that we can get. If you have inroads to any of that, we're more than happy to share that pie. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. We want to thank you and the Select Board for your support for this project and the vision to continue to create a thriving downtown in Middlebury. And the Select Board actually interrupted their meeting tonight to come over and be here, and then I think they're going back to finish up the meeting. So thank you all. We again want to thank the Town Hall Theater for hosting us here tonight. Thank you. We also want to thank the team at Middlebury Community Television for recording this meeting, broadcasting it on Comcast Channel 1071, and making it available on their YouTube channel. And if you'd like to revisit this meeting, you'll be able to find the recording online. Thanks again to our 3 design teams. They have done a ton of work on this project, far more than we're paying them for, and I hope you are impressed with what our own homegrown Vermont talent can produce, yeah? Now, they would love for you to come up and look more closely at their designs and their virtual reality demonstrations and answer your questions. So we're gonna have GBA right here in the front of the stage. Via's over here on the right. Weimann Lamphere ReArch are down there on the left. Now, while we are thrilled with the turnout here tonight, we hadn't quite anticipated so many of you. And in order to prevent any trampling or stampeding, what I'd like to have happen when we conclude here is with those of you in the seats up on the risers, just stay there for a moment, okay? Take a minute, talk with your friends, complete your comment cards, and those of you who are in the seat on the floor, not yet, you can stand up and we'll get some able-bodied people to stack these chairs and get them out of the way, so those of you who'd like to visit these exhibits can do that. And then if you have questions about the process for the Ilsley 100 team, or if the Select Board is around for a minute, we'll be here in the front, maybe up on the stage. Please come and ask us about that going forward. Now, please write your thoughts down on one of those comment cards and drop it off as you leave. There are going to be people by the doors with envelopes. You can put them in. If you are watching our broadcast or live stream, or if you prefer to type, you can respond to the same questions electronically at the web address on the screen or by using the QR code. And if you need more space to share your comments and opinions, you can always email our library director, dana.hart@ilsleypubliclibrary.org. We've been taking public comments since July 27th. We'll continue to do that for the next couple of days, but then we'll need some time to process and collate them for review. Finally, you were probably greeted at the door tonight by Walt Deverell. I saw Walt at the Friends of the Library used book sale last Saturday, and he said something that stuck with me. He said, you know, when I look above the door of the Ilsley Library, where it says 1923, I am grateful for the work that those people did 100 years ago. And it's my hope that 100 years from now, on Ilsley's 200th anniversary, that people will look back on what we did in 2023 and say, those people did the right thing. So thank you all for coming tonight, sharing your input and your support for this important project. We invite a GBA to reassemble your boards here. Those in the front, if you would stand and let us move those chairs, that would be great. And Alex, we could have the house lights up. Thank you all so much.